Welcome to the ICT Newscast, Polydinekla Yanishya. The protectors of Oak Flat, a sacred site to many tribes, received bad news this week. The U.S. Supreme Court has decided not to hear an appeal of lower court ruling that gave the green light for development of a major copper mine by Resolution Copper. The appeal was filed by Apache Stronghold, a coalition of Apache activists and allies. We will never stop fighting. Nothing will deter us from protecting Oak Flat from destruction, said Wetzler Nosey Sr. of Apache Stronghold. He says the effort now turns to Congress, who can still intervene. Native voting rights advocates and lawmakers want to stop a GOP effort they say would make it more difficult for many to vote. As the so-called SAVE Act makes its way through Congress, the fight against it is now centered in the Senate. Stuart Huntington has more.
The U.S. House last month passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, or the SAVE Act, that would require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. To the GOP and President Trump, it's a necessity. To opponents, it's
a solution in search of a problem.
This law would really unfortunately be disastrous in Indian country.
The law would lean on birth certificates, passports, and in-person registration to thwart non-citizen voters, something that is already rare and illegal under federal law. The bill faces an unsure future in the Senate, where Democrats vow to filibuster passage, citing what they say are
huge implications on women voters, huge implications on members of the military, huge implications in Indian country, where there's some unique challenges to being able to register to vote and to participate. A lot of folks who live on reservations, for example, are not exactly close to a county courthouse where you would have to show up in person to register or to update your voter registration.
Registration offices under this bill could be as much as 120 miles round trip. That is just unreasonably far away to have to register in person.
Padilla recently led 11 senators in writing to Interior Secretary Doug Burgum in opposition to the act, employing strong language.
When you make it harder for people to provide the documentation necessary under these proposed rules to register, it's voter suppression.
For ICT, I'm Stuart Huntington.
Mino-giizhigad, noongom. Mino-giizhigad, noongom. It is a good day today. Mino-giizhigad, noongom. The word Mino is talking about something that is good, nice, or well. Giizhigad is a word for day, and then noongom means today. So we put all three together, we have Mino-giizhigad, noongom. It is a good day today.
We Are Healers has a new executive director. Caroline Davis now leads the nonprofit that supports Indigenous medical students. Here's more from Davis on what this new chapter means.
Caroline Davis Yanishya. Katneza Yanishling, do German dine Bashishchin, Tachitni Dashache, do Irish dine Dashanella.
Caroline Davis is We Are Healers' first executive director. For over a decade, she's been a leader in Indigenous public health, health equity, and social justice. The nonprofit organization supports Indigenous students to pursue healthcare professions.
We need doctors and other healthcare professionals who understand what that experience is like being a Native person. But on the other side of that same coin, there are a lot of values in how we approach health from like an Indigenous lens that would be beneficial to everybody, kind of that holistic approach that we do, because it's not just physical health. When you go into the doctor, a lot of the times it's like, we're going to look at these individual symptoms, but it's all, it's everything. It's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, and that's something that we absolutely carry in our Indigenous values and how we approach health.
More now than ever, the support that We Are Healers offers is important.
In medicine, every minority group has seen increases in medical students except for Native Americans. And this was especially true this year, actually, that there was a very noticeable drop in the number of students that were being admitted to medical schools.
One of the ways We Are Healers inspires students is through storytelling. An Ojibwe elder shares his journey to health.
Awan is my Anishinaabe name. My clan is Adik, and that's Caribou. Earlier in life, I went to seek direction and seek a better way of life. I was an addict. I had enough relapses. They give pins, coin. I had enough of them to make a jingle dress. I just couldn't get it, and beadwork. I went to a certain treatment center in Minnesota. I was in that treatment center 6 times. After the 6th time, they finally hired me. This is elk hide on there. Teaching that and giving the drum story to people really helps. I really wanted to make a difference in other people's lives, to give back some of those miracles that I had finally found. My name is Joe Martineau, and I'm an addiction, alcohol, and drug counselor. And I knew that's what I would do till I retired, no matter what. I grew up in Sawyer, Minnesota, a real traditional part of the reservation, and spoke my language, and we went powwows, and we all did a lot of things culturally and spiritually within that community. We were taken away from our mom, who after my dad died started drinking, never went to court, they just started taking us. I remember going to the hospital, doused in this cream. They shaved my head, and then they said, you're going to a new home. You're going to have a new family to take care of you. It was at that time I entered the non-Indian foster care system. The names that I was called, the loss of the culture, the loss of the connection, the loss of identity, the hating of being Indian just because of being different really caused a lot of shame-based trauma with watching these on TV, hearing their depiction of what they thought, Indians were, from drunken Indian to, pagan savages, didn't believe in God, and they were godless, and all of these things that they had judgments against Indians. That's what I heard growing up. I got sick of that. I tried suicide first at 12 years old. They were going to send me back to the most sadistic foster home I was ever in, and I said, no, I'm not going. So at night I swam out in the lake as far as I could, and I knew I couldn't make it back. And all I remember was a full moon, and I was sinking in the water, and I could see the ripples of the moon on the sand on the bottom. And the sun was just coming up, and I woke up on the shore shivering, and I just thought, what's going on in my life? Through all the pain, through all the trauma, through all the feelings and depression and anger, I still had this connection with some kind. I didn't know what it was. The turning point in my life, one day I was sitting there and my daughter came up and she had never saw me drunk. She said, Dad, you need to quit drinking because you're going to die and I need you. I didn't cry, I just stared straight ahead and I just said, I'm done. I found the Medewin Lodge, the medicine lodge of the Anishinaabe people. I heard the drum one day, I heard the grandmas talking, I heard the people talking, giving their stories. I saw the miracles, I saw the life-changing things happening to people, and it was at that time I knew that would be the biggest part of my life. My gift that I've been building is to help people instill that the belief that they can change, that things can get better, that things can be different. Family chief staff. The healing isn't from the healer. The healing comes from that person's growing belief that they can be healed. How do you instill that in people, whether you're a doctor or a medicine man or a spiritual leader? How do we instill faith rather than hope? We all have that strength. We all have the gift inside of us. And how we build that is just to keep reaching, keep striving, keep growing, and stay on that path, be focused. Find your own truth. Then when you find that truth, keep your truth strong in you so it guides you. We can become better people as a result of this. That we can treat each other better, treat this earth better, and just live a better life together.
At the University of Montana, one garden is cultivating connections above and below ground. Journalism student Layla Sheeran has more.
Zach Rides at the Door gathered students, faculty, and community members to clean up and weed the ethnobotany garden on the University of Montana campus.
Long before any of these buildings are here, a lot of tribes use plants.
This garden has 8 circles representing 8 ecoregions in Montana and the Native American tribes affiliated with them.
There's different medicines. There's stuff like ceremonial type medicines, and there's medicines for like your topicals or your ingested type of medicines that can heal your body.
The caretaker of the garden, Hannah Horniak, says this event involves students in the garden to make it more accessible to them.
It's important to connect folks with this place. I think it's important because I get to connect with my community and connect with native plants, but I think the most important outcome is connecting our community, especially native folks, to this, to this garden, to this resource that is, for them.
Rides at the Door says students who come from different reservations can find plants from home within the garden that he recently used to soothe a scratch on his hand.
It does keep us connected because when we're far away from home, sometimes we feel lost and sometimes we feel like out of place. Sometimes we're the only brown person in the classroom. So like, even if it's just coming out to this garden, it makes you feel like you're at home. If you have that knowledge within you, you get to use it here.
The garden is maintained over the summer while most college students are on break, and the local tribal people are invited to gather and use their ancestral medicine. Reporting for the ICT Newscast from the homelands of the Salish, Kalispé, and Kasanka people, I'm Layla Sheeran with the University of Montana School of Journalism in Missoula.
A trade group backing native cannabis businesses is working to put the industry, on the map. Stuart Huntington has more.
The Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association has unveiled a new tool to promote tribal participation in the sector, a map highlighting tribal cannabis activity.
With the visual of the map, I think it's going to be really impactful to just get outside of numbers, but to see the locations as well as the voids where we have for access to quality medicine in Indian country because of underserved tribal cannabis areas. For us, that allows us to know where we can focus our education and outreach for our tribal communities.
The map plots tribal cannabis and hemp enterprises.
These are starting points for us to develop data, resources, and directories to elevate the overall acumen of our Indigenous nations in this space. That's an industry that's needed by our country, along with our Indigenous nations, for economic development, diversification, and workforce development.
The first Indigenous cannabis store opened almost 10 years ago in Washington state, and now dozens of Native communities have created their own regulatory systems to govern cultivation, production, and sales. In addition, 52 tribal communities operate federally approved hemp cultivation programs, and the ICIA hopes the map spurs new interest.
We're really encouraging tribes to embrace the opportunities around building out new emerging industries, especially under the energy of the current administration to really embrace domestic manufacturing under industrial fiber.
For ICT, I'm Stuart Huntington.
There's a new album by Bazille hitting the streets. ICT's Amelia Schaefer caught up with the Creek Rapper who is honoring his ancestors using his music and voice.
I caught up with Talon Bazille Ducheneau at his studio in Rapid City, South Dakota recently to talk about his new album. The hip-hop artist goes by Bazille.
My great-great-grandpa was named Bazille Claymore on my grandpa's side, and my grandpa's side is mixed. I'm Ducheneau, so there's French blood and all this stuff, but he was someone who was recognized as being very fair with everybody. And I read that on his tombstone, like that must have been really important in his life and things I'd heard about him. And my family had called me Bazille my whole life anyway, or Baz or Bazillion. So it just kind of felt natural to stick with that and try to live up to his name and how I operate. I think the biggest things that inspire me in my work are like, I don't come from one type of like lifestyle, and I appreciate and love that I'm kind of, this, I consider myself an underground artist. I even call myself Dakushni, which in Lakota means nobody, in some of my records, and the reason for that is because, I'm from a type of like life experience where as a kid I was in professors' houses, but I was also in drug dealers' houses. My dad, like he kind of showed me the equality of life, not intentionally, but through that type of way. And then when we moved back to the res after he got his PhD in clinical psychology, I saw that stress really eat at him and cause friction within our family and a lot of problems. And then all of the things that he had gone to college to get away from had now been the center course of our lives. And through that, I've had my own journey of going to college now in Philadelphia and still being connected to my communities and trying to do community work and making decisions that a lot of people don't understand. But through all of that, I meet people in these crevices in the underground, whether they're artists, visual, music, whatever, and they express things to me. They tell me, this happened to me, or this went on with this, and it's all so like, I'll just be blunt, it's awful. And as I see all of that in different layers, whether it's the government, arts, entertainment, just in everyday life, even how I get viewed when I go to the store or when I go somewhere, despite the fact that I have a Ivy League education, I don't get treated any kind of different other than like who I am and what people think. And so I connect to that. And so when I make my music, when I perform, when I operate in music, that's all fresh in my mind. The true rebels, the ones out there doing the real work that I can only dream to do.
Let me get this straight. I just want to live today. While they're trying to clown my way. Treat me like
My grandpas and my uncles talk about in powwow when people wear face paint, if they do it with intention, then it's for real. And I didn't want to copy nobody. I didn't want to, I know people have certain designs and there's certain traditional things, but for me, it just came that the white is the ghost, my spirit, my true self, so that way I don't lie. And then the black around my eyes that shoot into wakinas, maybe people expect those to be white and reverse because they flash, but for me, it's about the type of lightning that you don't see but still feel, that still purifies, because then each one I try to make it go down in my heart of like the tears will heal you, the striking of like the emotion will heal you, and then the black around my neck is the strangulation with 7 white dots of the prophecy that, all of these people, these generations of people, even before that, are the reason why I'm here today. And the reason why beyond the strangulation I can speak, I can do my dance without being arrested, without being really like harmed to this extent. I have that freedom because so many people fought for me. So in a sense too, that's like for veterans as well.
For ICT from the homelands of the Lakota and Dakota, I'm Amelia Schaefer.
The Indigenous food movement is taking flight. The co-owners of Tocabe are bringing native flavors from their Denver restaurant to the city's airport.
Thanks, Ben Jacobs, for joining us on the ICT Newscast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
And we're here because you have a new restaurant in the airport, and we just wanted to talk to you about that. And how's it going?
So it's been going well so far. Food quality is there. The distribution channels are there. But being in an airport's a whole different world. So we're working through the transition. It's hard enough to open a restaurant on the street, but let alone an airport is just a totally different ballgame.
I appreciate all the work that you're doing because, boy, airport food can be crappy.
But we're hoping that we can bring some quality to that. Yeah. We're excited to expand. What's so fun about it is, we can continue to share our company and our concept and our brand, obviously, but what we represent, obviously, being Native community first, and making sure to share Native ingredients that are sourced from Native communities. It's a great way to expand that, and also not just on a local audience now, but really having the opportunity for a global audience to enable you're able to enjoy our approach to cuisine, but also enjoy our ingredients that come from our community members is really important. So we're really excited about the opportunity. I think when we were going through this process and we were bidding and we were submitting, it's about obviously getting our food into the world and sharing our food, because we are a restaurant, but it's really about like making sure that we're sharing the stories and the voices for our communities, and we're building that amongst the population, that people could really see who we are, what we are, and maintaining the integrity of who we are, where we come from, and what we represent. While we do food, yes, we're representing culture and community and identity, and not just a food concept. We want to be a culture concept. We want to be a place that really is not, Ben Jacobs' idea of Native community or cuisine. It's our identity. It's our representation. And so we're really excited about all these opportunities, and knowing that, there's only growth potential there. And we can see so much more that happens to this relationship, especially having such a massive opportunity for an audience beyond food. So that's really important.
So this is probably a not very fair question to ask, but do you know if you're the first Native provider of food in an airport in the United States?
I don't know. We've been told that we're in the United States, we're the only Native concept in the United States. I know I have a good friend up in Canada that there's Salmon and Bannock. She has that up in Vancouver. But the point is, even if we are or we aren't, there's so few. We need people coming in saying, this is a space that people want the food. They want the cuisine. Because first and foremost, I believe, not just us, but Native culinarians, we provide amazing food. And through that, we provide amazing experience. And people want to have that experience. And they want to have the good quality food and then an amazing story that goes along with that. We always say that we're amazing food first, and then we're amazing community to follow. So we want you to enjoy our food and then say, oh, wow, this is an amazing story and everything that goes with it. We're not selling you a story. We're selling you good food, but we're selling you from the heart and the essence of who we are and where we come from. And I think that is a huge opportunity for all of us in the Native culinary world to start to share our food in all these major venues. It's something that needs to be seen, and we're starting to do that. And so I think that there's an amazing platform for all of us to continue this, not only in airports, but in major venues all over the United States, up into Canada and everywhere else. I'm very positive in the fact of where we are in the culinary industry right now, even though there's a lot of difficulties with what's happening right now. I think for Native culinarians, there's so much creativity and innovation happening that I think that the population, especially people that enjoy a food experience, want to have that. And so I'm really excited, not just for us, but for all the young Native culinarians, those of are, in my generation that have been out there, that are out there sharing our food, sharing our cuisine, sharing our creativity, to everyone to be able to go back and say, hey, I had this amazing Native, this amazing Indigenous meal in a platform like an airport.
Hey, at least you don't have to pay the tariffs.
That's always my joke, is the best part about being in the Native food system is tariffs don't affect us because our food's right here.
All right. Well, thanks, Ben.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Trailblazer Jeanne Gibbons has died. She was the first Native American woman to run for Congress. She was the first Native American elected to the Idaho House of Representatives in 1984. Here's part of an interview she did with Mark Trahant.
The Aryan nations had set down their flag in North Idaho, and they were present. They were present in public gatherings. They would be present in the 4th of July parade. I mean, they were taunting. They were taunting the public, and the public had just become complacent and quiet. And people decided that we need to organize. and we need to decide what we're going to stand up for. And I think that was a challenge for the community, and to be part of that and to develop community conversations about difference and why it's not so scary. It's good to learn about people who have a different religion and a different race and a different culture. I think the best message for fighting racism is to immediately stand up and to speak out. And I think at that point you need to have every person in elective office go on record about how they feel about human rights, civil rights, people who are different, and let's get that conversation going.
She also served on the Indige Public Media Board, the parent company of the ICT Newscast. She died of cancer May 13th in Spokane, Washington. She was 73. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.